The Kraken are inviting you to play Hat Trick Trivia. Every game on the Kraken Hockey Network in January will have a chance for you to win prizes, plus qualify for the grand prize of 4 first-class round-trip flights on Alaska Airlines in the U.S. The more you watch and play, the more chances you have to win. Learn more at seattlekraken.com/hattrick. Support your local youth hockey teams by becoming a billet. Kraken Youth Hockey Association is seeking families interested in hosting youth players for the season. Billet families provide housing and support to youth who have moved away from home to pursue their hockey careers. Help a dream come true and learn more at krakencommunityiceplex.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Signals from the Deep, the official podcast of your Seattle Kraken. I am, of course, Piper Shaw, joined as always by JT Brown. How are we doing?
Doing good. Excited for another episode.
All right. Out of just your enthusiasm, I hope people can really feel how excited you are based on that response. And of course, always joining us from Seattle, because we are on the road, we have producer extraordinaire Grant Beery.
Hello. Nice to see y'all virtually once again. This is 2 weeks in a row that we haven't been in the same room.
I know, not ideal, but just kind of way the schedule works itself out. So yeah, JT and I were just talking about that too. It's nice when we can all be in the same room and also have players on in the same room, which gets us right into things because we are fresh off of Kraken practice. We are in Columbus at the time of recording this. And so after practice, JT and I made a foray into the locker room to pose some really, really tough questions at some of these guys. I will say, I was kind of giving JT crap for it, but I was like, is this your first interview with one of the players since you got here? Because JT notoriously does not go into the locker room. He doesn't have to. It's not his job, but
I think I've had a couple. I think, that might have been like 3 or 4, though. That was probably, it's been a very small amount of interviews done.
Yeah. But I do think going forward, too, and as we continue to build like what the Kraken Hockey Network is, too, it'd be cool to have you do more of that. Like, I'd love to have you and Yanni like sit down and like maybe a little more professional interview maybe than we had before and like talk about your guys' friendship and journey, but that's for
a different
day.
Interviews.
I know. Well, it can be fun. I mean, it will be fun because you guys are friends inherently. Just it would be maybe more real.
Well, it feels like work then if we're doing that. I like having the interviews where we're just going up asking fun questions.
Yeah. Don't we all? Trust me, don't we all? Which gets us right into this because we decided to chat up Josh Mahura, who goes by Muzz, Ryker Evans, and then Brandon Montour, who has made a podcast appearance before. And in fact, when we asked him if we could have a couple minutes of his time for the podcast again, after we did this interview, he goes, "What kind of podcast are you guys running here after these?" Which I think you will figure out why. So, Grant, if you will, can we roll the interviews?
I'll cue them up. Here we go.
All right, Signals from the Deep Nation. We're here with Josh Mahura. We're at practice. We got some hard-hitting questions for you here. Perfect. Josh, are you ready?
I'm ready to go.
First of all, if a dog wore pants, which way would he wear the pants? We have a visual here.
I think on the right there.
So just
on the back legs, on the hind.
Just on the back legs. So only 2 legs, not all 4.
Not all 4, just on the 2.
What do you think of this one? Is that one?
I mean, I don't even.
It's kind of messed up. I was like, once you make 4 legs.
I think that's. I don't know. On our dogs, we call we say our front are their feet, or their back are their feet, and the front are their hands.
I agree.
That's what we say. I don't know. I don't think there's a wrong answer in that one, though. Really.
I just don't know how all 4 would stay up.
I think it's perspective. Yeah, exactly. That too.
That is a good point. That's a good point. You need a really strong belt.
Yeah.
All right, JT.
First one is going to be if you're out on. Let me rephrase this. So if you're out to dinner with the teammates, who's going to be least likely to pay?
Who's going to be least likely? Probably carts. I would say I would say Karts or Ryker for
Just
sure.
always forgot their wallet.
Yeah, there's just never bring them anyway. So
All right, that's fair enough.
What's your favorite jersey in the NHL other than the Kraken jersey? It can be a specialty jersey or any other team, just like a favorite that you have.
ooh, my favorite jersey. Trying to think here. Probably maybe one of the old Edmonton ones, the dark navy blue with I don't know what you call it.
The like alternative logo.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Drop or whatever.
Yeah, that one. I mean, I'm from Edmonton, so I obviously liked the Oilers growing up, and when Ryan Smith was wearing those jerseys and stuff like that, it was I always thought they were cool. So probably that, just because it's more of a little like I said, childhood.
Nostalgia.
Exactly that.
All right, last one for you.
Who's the last person on the team you would let date your sister or your daughter?
Who is the last person on the team?
Like, absolutely not.
And you don't have to give a reason why. Just who's the last person?
Who's the last person? I don't know. We got some pretty good guys in this room, actually. I guess if I had one, I'd let one of the boys do it. We got good guys in this room, so I wouldn't have an issue with it.
With any of them?
No.
All right.
Fair enough.
Wow, what a credit to this room. All right.
Let's see if the answer's the same for the rest.
I know.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Clearly, my question.
First hard-hitting question for you here, Brandon. If a dog were to wear pants, which way would he wear the pants?
I got pants for my dog, and it's the right side.
Okay, so it's the second option.
Yeah, it's actually the full get up though. It's got both legs and it goes up to his. He's got like allergy issues and he bites his hair and stuff.
Wait,
So
it
I literally
has-
have pants that he puts on both his legs or all four of his legs,
Okay.
and up to like a little turtleneck.
Okay, so then it's kind of like
So
the
it's kind of
first
like both.
option, though, too.
Yeah, a little bit of both. Yeah, it's got
Which
both.
one looks right?
Well, I mean, how does that even stay on a dog?
That's what
So
we
I'm
said.
going right.
Okay, all right. We have a consistent answer there. Stevie feels strongly about the first option there, so
Unless somehow there's like a couple buckles that go around, could have that.
we did find on the internet.
Yeah, there's options like that.
All right, next question, JT.
All right, so if you're out to dinner with your teammates, who is least likely to pay? So who's got the alligator arms?
I'm either going to say the Booger Man or I'm going to say Mazel Tov.
Dude, no one knows who.
Yeah, I would say for the people, for the listeners.
For them to figure out who the Booger Man is and who Muzzle Tov is.
All right, perfect. All right, next question for you. Other than the Kraken jersey, what's your favorite jersey in the NHL? It can be from a special event or something that's been retired.
Probably the Red Panthers jersey.
Oh, I wonder why. Oh. All right.
That's a good answer, eh?
Last question.
Hey, Boogs.
All right, so last question is, who would you not let date your daughter or a sister on this team?
Probably Goose.
All right.
I think the best part is that everybody's around.
Yeah, everybody's just sitting right here. Yeah, just literally catching strays, just sitting there. All right, well, thank you. There you have it. All right, we're here with Ryker Evans. We have a hard-hitting question. If a dog was going to wear pants, which way would he wear the pants?
The second one.
The second one. So that's the same thing that Josh said.
Yeah, like, that just makes most sense now.
Why does it make the most sense?
Well, how's he supposed to, like, that's like right in his butt. No?
It is, you're right.
But same with this one, but this just looks, this looks uncomfortable, like the waistline's there, but like the waistline's like, right there. The waistline would be on his butt. That would be so uncomfortable.
I mean, you can do it the same way.
You know?
The waistline goes up to his neck in the first option.
That's why, like, that's just uncomfortable.
I just don't think the belt would actually keep these up.
All right, next question here. JT's got the next question.
So if you're out to dinner with your teammates, who is least likely to pay?
Well,
Always forgot their wallet, you know?
it's Goose. Like Gustav Olsen. Goose or Karts, probably.
I said you
and like maybe myself. Actually, I did do that one time with Hedman, Luke Hedman. I told him I'd buy him a Blizzard, and then we got to the window and I forgot my wallet.
Did you actually forget it though, like a mistake, or?
Well, it was like after.
Was it on purpose?
No, it was after a game. I got ran from behind and he fought someone.
Yeah.
He fought the guy, and I'm like, all right, I'll get you a Blizzard. Like after the game, we get to the window, and I'm like, on my wallet.
Well, JT did that. JT did that to me in Chicago, so.
Fair enough.
You know,
It happens to the best of us sometimes.
Okay, next question is, what is your favorite jersey in the NHL other than a Kraken jersey? It can be a specialty jersey or one from, like an event or something nostalgic.
I like the old Nordiques jersey. Because I was like an Avs fan growing up.
Yeah.
So I like what they have going on. That was really my favorite.
Okay. All right. Last question
Last
for you.
hard-hitting question is, who on the team would you not let date your daughter or a sister?
Who would you just not even considering? Hard no.
First response.
Berkey.
All right.
There's no. It doesn't have to say why. Just who. That's all.
Berkey.
Berkey. All right. Love it. Thank you, Ryker.
All right, so I will say we also asked this same dog question, the dog pants question. It carried on all throughout the rest of the after practice conversation. When Coach Bilesma came up to do his availability, that was the first question that I asked him, and I didn't really know how to read his reaction at first, but then after we, did the full availability and like talked about actual hockey stuff, he stuck around to really talk to you about it, JT.
Yeah, it was probably about 15 minutes, you'd say. We had a conversation, and obviously if you haven't seen the picture, just go on your search engine and look up, if you were a dog, how would a dog wear pants? And then you can find the images of that. And, it was a very good conversation. Obviously, I have my feelings as to which way the pants would be worn, and I can see it from both sides. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting conversation. We even had, Al was chirping in a little bit as well, and then giving his take. And I think the overwhelming majority, though, would put the pants on two legs, on the back two legs. That's what we have found through not only just the questions that we did for this podcast, but went around the locker room as well and asked a lot more of the players as well. So now I'm not going to say they're wrong, because everybody gets their own opinion, and it is a very hypothetical question. But it was fun to just kind of break it up and talk obviously to the players, but also to get Dan to come back. And it was definitely, something that he wanted to come back and talk to after the media was done. So it was definitely fun.
Yeah, I think I don't know if he knew that we had kind of taken over the locker room with this question. We asked almost every single player in the locker room this question, although they weren't all on the microphone. So Chandler Stevenson he felt the opposite. He thought all four legs. He said if the animals or if the creature's legs are on the ground, then that makes them legs, not arms. So he said all of the legs should be covered. But Josh Mahura, I liked what he said, which you did hear, how he was like, well, I always say that their front paws are their hands. I'm like, exactly.
And there's an argument to be had, but again, it's a super hypothetical. I think we even got to starting to ask where a giraffe would wear a tie at one point too. So definitely the interesting questions were going on today.
Yeah. So also shout out Coach Bilesma, because he really sat there with JT for a while and they were going back and forth about it. I think he really wanted to understand your perspective on this question. So.
Think about how I'm thinking it through and just giving my answer. But obviously, there is pants that you can buy for all four legs. We have seen those, looking it up and what dogs would wear. So the practical approach of the four-legged pants, I guess, would be. But I'm looking at it more from, if that dog was a human, where would it go? Where would the waist? How would the belt work? There's just a lot of things that go on, but for me, it still has to be the back legs.
Yeah.
Even though I took what Dan said and I listened to it, I processed it, but at the end of the day, I still got to stay with my decision.
The conversation would have continued to go on, but I was looking at the clock. We were scheduled to start recording this at 3:00 and it was 2:41. And I was like, Dan, JT, love this conversation, but we do have work to do. So we do need to go. And I was like, JT, I'll leave you here, but I'm not leaving Grant out to dry here. So that brings us
of
you,
all
Grant.
the reasons.
What is your opinion on this? We need it.
Well, I would say back two legs. That is the functionality of what pants are for. Dictates that it's just back two legs. I mean, putting them on the front two legs is just unnecessary. Also, your belt's too big at that point. So, I just going forward, if you do get caught in a conversation with Coach Bilesma of this nature and it has to delay the podcast, I will be very understanding, and that's okay.
I know. We're just being respectful of everyone's time. I also, even though he was being so gracious to, engage with us about something so ridiculous like this, I also just I don't want to waste Coach's time either too much of it talking about dog pants, and giraffe neckties, but I appreciate him humoring us.
The other question that was brought up as well was where would the shirt go, right? If the dog had to wear a shirt and you had all four legs with the pants, you'd have nowhere for a shirt to go.
It's like a cape.
I mean, I'm just starting to, at the end of the day, the more I think about it, the less four legs makes sense to me.
Yeah, I also couldn't. Riker's response about being really concerned that pants have to cover the butt. Pants have to cover the butt. He said, "I'm like, that's a good point. That's a great case for the back two legs."
Great podcast title too. That might be our episode title right there.
Oh no, oh man. But a couple of other updates from Kraken practice. Depending on when you're listening to this could be old news. This, we will see what unfolds after this, but Joey Decord has been activated from injured reserve, so that's good. Coach Bilesma said that he always brings energy, even if the fans and the media aren't seeing him around. He's been very much present, so they haven't necessarily missed his presence in the room because he didn't go anywhere. But so he should be good to go on this road trip, so that's great. Yanni Gourde still on IR. Didn't see him at practice today, so they did call up Mitchell Stevens and they sent down Ben Myers, who also has done a nice job. So both those two have really done a nice job when they've been called up. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, it's just it's an interesting spot, right? Obviously, you don't want players to be hurt, and obviously, it's good getting Joey back. And what you miss out of a guy like Yanni, being out there, especially in the faceoffs department. You talk about being out there for the penalty kill as well, and that's a spot where Mitchell Stevens can come in, and Ben Myers had done a good job throughout, but that's why you have the organizational depth that the Kraken do have. And you want to get those guys in, up and down the lineup, get them back with this group as well. They've had their opportunity so far this year. It's gone well. And, obviously for Mitchell, he gets another opportunity here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when he's been here, he's been really solid. And that was, you mentioned the penalty kill. That was one of the big things that Coach Bilesma said about that, as well as particularly when you'd lose Yanni Gourde and you're not sure when he's going to come back, having somebody that's strong on the PK, good benefit for the team. So anyway, and then also Adam Larsson was not practicing, but Coach Bilesma said that was a maintenance day, and Gustav Olofsson is still here. So you also may have heard in those interviews, some of the guys reference him, Gustav Olofsson. His nickname is Goose. So I know that there was a couple other nicknames in there, but like Monty said, you'll have to do your best investigating to figure out who those other ones are that he mentioned. So a big announcement that came out since we last recorded, the quarter century teams. So this is a little bit funny for your Seattle Kraken, because obviously we are the 32nd franchise, a very much new team. So we don't necessarily have centuries of hockey and players and history to pull on for this kind of thing. So the roster kind of looks a little bit like the Kraken's current roster, you could say. So these are, the quarter century team is basically marking the most iconic players or the most important players to the franchise's success from the year 2000 through 2025. So there's a first team and a second team, and I'll just run through, if you guys want, just the first team, and then JT, you can offer your thoughts there.
Yep.
So first team, let's start with the forwards. We got Jordan Eberle, your captain. We miss him so. Yanni Gourde and Jared McCann. And then on defense, you have who else? Other than Adam Larsson and Vince Dunn. And for your goaltender for the first team, Joey Decord. What do you think about those picks?
I think they did a good job, especially with taking a look at the forwards and just the impact that they have had. And obviously Vince Dunn and Adam Larsson, how much they've played. And you look at Joey as well. So I think they did a good job picking the first team. Obviously, you could make cases for some players that are on the second team, but I think also just having those guys, especially the forward group being there the entire time and the defense as well, it seemed like an easy pick for that one.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And then the second team here, your forwards are Matty Beniers, Oliver Bjorkstrand, and Jaden Schwartz. And then your defense, Brandon Montour, currently having played 41 games as a member of the Seattle Kraken, although his value clearly has been on display there. And then Jamie Alexiak for your other defender, and Philip Grubauer for your goalie.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you have to make some decisions when you only get to pick 5 players and then obviously one goalie for each of the teams. And again, you can make cases for you can make cases for Matty and Schwartz as well. But I think the longevity of the forward side, obviously, I think they just picked the right ones. And, at the end of the day, it has been a impressive 41 games for Brandon Montour as well. And again, I like the pick of Jamie Alexiak as well. I think you could swap Grubauer and Joey depending upon how you wanted to go. But I think when you go with the recency of, how Joey's been playing and what he's done from an impact perspective, I still think that Joey maybe up on the first team was the right pick.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Grant, I know that you had a question on this one to pose.
Yeah, so you look at, Beniers, Bjorkstrand, and Decord are 3 players that are on this team out of the 12 that weren't there from the beginning. So those are the only 3. So most of these players have been here from the beginning. But I wonder, is there a player that you would choose, either first or second team or at all, that is no longer playing for the Kraken that you think would be a good case for the quarter century team?
So for me, I don't know if necessarily it's the best case. I don't know that I would pick him over our other 2 goaltenders, but I do think Martin Jones obviously was a huge part of the Kraken's run and ability to make it to the playoffs the year that they did and their success there. Obviously, Phil Grubauer was a big part of actually their performance in the playoffs, but they wouldn't have been there without Martin Jones with Gruby's injury there. So I don't know that I would have, picked him over Joey or Gruby necessarily, but I do think that should have, at least been like a conversation because of how important he was there. And then my one other one would be maybe Alex Wenberg. I just think that for the longevity of the franchise, he had managed so many parts of the game for this team and, had obviously been there from the beginning. So just very responsible and played in both special teams and all those things. So again, I'm like, I don't know that I would necessarily pick him over a Yanni Gourde, but I think there could be a case made for that potentially.
Yeah.
The first thing that I thought of when this question was posed was going to Vitek Vanacek, goaltender. Obviously, I can't make a case for that one, but at the end of the day, I'll pick a real one. And for me, I probably would have to say Mark Giordano. I think that would be, even if it's not first team, maybe second team, obviously first captain in Seattle Kraken history, just to play that out. And obviously it wasn't the longest reign, but I think just impact of what, meant to the team. And, obviously he'll forever have that title. So I think that would be would have been a good option of somebody who is no longer, with the Kraken.
Right. Yeah. Maybe there's a case for like him instead of like Jamie Alexiak, or maybe him instead of Monty, depending on how you kind of look at that. But
I'm not picking who I got to take off. And the question was just posed, who would be another person?
I would say the only other person I would think to consider, Giordano is a really good choice as far as just kind of impact on the team. But you look at the only alumni we have, as far as the only player that's retired that has played as for the Kraken, is Jonas Donskoy. And so maybe there's some consideration there only because he is the sole member of our alumni association.
I like that we were able to give different answers too. We didn't pick the same one, so that's good.
Yeah, technically, I guess I don't know the rule on this, but I wonder if Justin Schultz, I wouldn't necessarily put Justin Schultz on this list, but I wonder if he counts as retired as a Kraken. I know he went to Sweden for a couple of months.
Oh, did he? You're right. He did not play for another team in between, did he?
Not another NHL team.
So we have 2 members of our alumni association. Okay.
Okay, great. Maybe, shouldn't you know about that, JT? As somebody who's retired from the NHL?
You know what? I formally retired, so I don't know how that all works at the end of the day.
I don't either. I guess we can figure it out. Well, maybe we'll have to reach out to Jonas. I know that Jonas's wife, Devin, also was really involved with like the community work of the team and stuff too. So if there was a first team for community impact, I definitely think the Donskoys would be in there for the Seattle Kraken as well. And honestly, probably the Wenbergs too, because Felicia, Alex Wenberg's wife, did a ton of stuff with that as well. So
there you go.
All right. I did not mention earlier about Daniel Sprong. Daniel Sprong has been waived at the time that we are recording this by the Seattle Kraken. So at the time of recording this, he's not been picked up by another team, so we cannot necessarily comment on his fate. But Coach Bausman just said it's pretty much just a roster decision, and you got to think that he would rather be playing somewhere, even if that's Coachella or a different team, rather than being scratched here. But
yeah, it's a tough position, right? I've gone through the waiver process as well, and the waiver process is there to give players a new opportunity, and whether that is, obviously they can go down and then play in the American Hockey League and then obviously be called back up, but it also gives other teams an option if they want to claim you and pick you up and go play somewhere else in the National Hockey League. So it's made for the players so that they are able to get that option and not just, say be buried down in the minor leagues. And especially when you have NHL talent and you have an NHL skill set, you want to have another opportunity. So whether that goes to another team, we don't know yet, but obviously it's just it's a tough part. It's part of the business of the sport. We've talked about that before when it comes to trades and different aspects of the NHL. But for me, obviously being a part of that, I got waived in Tampa and got claimed by Anaheim. So that gave me a new start. It gave me a fresh beginning to go move to another NHL team and try to show, what you can do out there on the ice. So it's a beneficial spot for the players. Obviously, it can be a tricky one. You want to be, obviously he's been in Seattle before, came back and was excited to be back with the group and with the group of guys and to be that part. So it obviously has its twofold part where obviously you're going to miss being around different guys, whether you're claimed or sent down to the minor leagues. But at the same time, it is a new opportunity for you.
What can you share about kind of the process and the conversation? Like how is it communicated to you when you're a player and you're going on waivers?
Yeah, so just get a call, from the GM and they let you know, hey, we're planning on putting you on waivers. In my case, for them, they said, we hope you clear, right? We hope that you will go to the American Hockey League. And obviously, we want to get you back up. We want to get, you're part of this team. You're going to be a part of the run later. But right now, obviously, a roster decision needs to be made. And we would like, our hope is that you end up going to Syracuse at the time and you'll come back to Tampa. That's not what ended up happening. I ended up getting claimed on waivers. So, think for me, it was just more of the conversation. Hey, we're letting you know. But at the same time, it does feel nice, right? Obviously that, hey, we want you to come back. You're still a part of this team, even though we're sending you down or trying to send you down to the minor leagues. It's just a weird process. Obviously, it's not one you're all ready for. But obviously having that open line of communication and, having a GM or having someone come tell you, why this decision was being made. And obviously you're still part of the team, even though it didn't end up working that way was nice.
And what about when you're claimed? Like, so when you were claimed by Anaheim, do they call you? Is it your agent? What happens?
Yeah, so I got a call from Anaheim. And for me, it was, hey, can you get on a plane and go to Denver? And I believe we were in the middle of our break at the time, too. So I hadn't practiced for like 5 days. I had been sitting in my pool on my little floaty. And like, yeah, there's a game tomorrow in Denver and we need someone to play. That was when Cogliano ended up getting suspended and his Ironman streak had gone by the wayside because of that. So you're not in a spot really to say no either.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll be there. So I think I got on a flight, it was late that night, same day that everything kind of went through. And I believe I landed in Denver around like 10:30, 11 o'clock. It's a long drive from the airport in Denver.
Yes, it is.
So I think by the time I got all settled in, I think it was about midnight, somewhere right around there. And it was a afternoon game. I think it was like a 1 o'clock start. So no pregame skate. Hadn't been skating for like 5 days and had been, relaxing at the pool. So that was a tough game to get right into.
How'd you do? Were you -4 or?
Honestly,
Just kidding.
I don't remember. I just remembered I played way too many minutes for me from what I had been used to playing. And then on top of that, having out skating and then being in Denver at altitude, I just remember every period my legs were up on the bench. I was laying on the floor with my legs up trying to get my legs to feel decent again. So it was a tough game, but it was definitely fun. You had the adrenaline, right, of being with a new team and, obviously kind of similar situation where, with Capo, he comes over, you want to impress, you're being around all of this newness, but at the same time you have the excitement of being on a new team and you want to go out there and perform. So again, it's a weird spot to be in, walking into a locker room, especially for that first time. With really, again, if you know somebody, yes, but if you don't, it still can be an interesting spot. So it was fun, but I wouldn't want to do that again, especially with the time off and playing in altitude. That was interesting.
And early game.
Yes.
Yeah.
On top of that.
Yeah, that's tough. I wonder what kind of the conversation was like, I guess, for you and Lexi in that moment too, and how maybe that varies from like a trade. Like, what does it mean for your family, you know?
I mean, for me, it was just we just got out there. Obviously, it's, hey, we're going to start. You start working with the team, and they start trying to figure out where you're going to live. How are we going to get everybody out there? I believe for the start, I think it took about a week or so before Lexi and Lily at the time came out to Anaheim and stayed in a hotel for a while till we could figure out where we ended up living. But it was a little bit of a whirlwind, right? You have to figure out what's moving cars from one side of the country, from Florida to Anaheim. And then just kind of figuring that side of it out. So it does go really quickly, especially from, answering a call saying, hey, you're going on waivers, and then end up picking up another call that says you were claimed off waivers.
And then you're on a flight.
Within, I think it's probably 5 hours later, 6 hours later, you're getting ready to go on a flight. So
Are
it
you
doesn't
flying with
always
your
work
gear?
that quickly. So grab my gear, grab the suitcase that could pack as much as I could for the, 10 days or so. And then obviously Lexi was able to get over to Florida, or from Florida to California, with obviously more stuff than what I would normally have with me. But it goes fast. That's probably the same thing with the trade. Trade is, again, usually within 24 hours, you're on the move. And no different really when you get claimed off waivers. I guess I probably could have said no, like, hey, I can't make it to that game, but that's really not the impression you're trying to make, with the new team and new organization as well. So obviously if there wasn't a flight, there's times where it just can't work out, but you just try to get out there as fast as possible.
Nice to be able to have the support of your wife too, and like have somebody that's like, when you're on that tight turn, it would be like, well, if I did forget something, I have somebody at least still in Tampa who can like help support me, I would imagine. Because if you're just on your own riffing around, like, because some of these guys, they are on their own, and it's like, pack what you have and hope you can get back. Or, I mean, everybody has, there's resources and there's support for everybody and help there, but it's quite the lifestyle to live.
It's all about the turnaround. That's what makes it so hard, is when you have to get up and move. Obviously, myself, like, I owned my house in Florida, so we had bought it and we're like, oh, this is great. And then eventually it's like, no, all right, now we got to really figure this whole thing out again. But no, it was definitely the turnaround aspect is what makes, that part, whether it's a trade, whether it's getting claimed off waivers, which makes it so hard.
So I wanted to go back really quick to talking about Mitchell Stevens. Speaking of kind of bubble players, if you will. So Mitchell Stevens, I was working on a feature on Vince Dunn last week, which will be airing when we are in Buffalo. So tune into Kraken pregame. I've been grinding on these features, which are online now. So if you're not watching Kraken pregame, then you're not, or if you're not watching Kraken pregame, rather, then you have not seen these. So I would encourage you to go to the Kraken's website to check them out, because there's some pretty nice stories on your favorite players. But there's one coming on Vince Dunn. And when I was listening to this interview with Vince, he was talking about how his mom actually didn't really want him to play hockey. He didn't come from a hockey family, but it was his neighbor, Eddie Belanger, I believe is how you say it, Belanger, who was like, oh, you should get Vince on skates, blah, blah, blah. And Eddie was Mitchell Stevenson's first ever hockey coach. So while Vince is telling me this interview, which we did back in September, he didn't even really know Mitchell like at all at the time. He's like, so you might need to fact check this. And so on, Saturday when I'm listening through this interview, I'm like, oh man, Mitchell was just here and now he's not here. So I can't ask him. So anyways, now Mitchell's here and I was able to check in with it. So yeah, just kind of a funny random Kraken connection that doesn't really have a place to share anywhere else, but I thought that was kind of funny. So it was Mitchell Stevenson's first hockey coach that was Vince Dunn's neighbor, which is the reason that Vince plays hockey and the reason that we all get to enjoy him playing. So kind of the hockey world is very small.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the one thing that never really surprises me, is when you find those small details that intersect with hockey. And whether it's in Minnesota, across Canada, and you go to different places, it always seems to have that like small feel, even though it's such a grand sport and so many people play and from so many different regions, and you always end up finding those little connections.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of research on one Oliver Bjorkstrand as well for another feature, and I found this picture online of him sitting on a bench in his jersey next to a very young Brock Besser. And I have been Googling, and I am not sure where that connection comes from. So now I'm going to have to go to Oliver and be like the picture, Brock looks like he's probably 10 years old, if that. Like, so and it's from a long time ago, obviously.
Send me the picture. We'll get to the bottom. Let's
okay. Yeah. Cause you know him. Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm like, what is this connection here? So, I know that Oliver's dad is from Minnesota originally, even though Oliver is from, Denmark, obviously, but yeah, so we'll have to investigate that. We'll try to come back with some updates for you guys. I'm sending this to you, JT. But that being said, I feel like we should just kind of get into a little bit of talk about the state of Kraken hockey right now. So Coach Bilesma, when we were at practice, was just talking about the importance of this road trip and kind of the mindset, and the overall message has been needing to find consistency. We heard Brandon Montour talking about that with me post-game after the New Jersey loss as well. Because even though there were some good things from that homestand, because of that inconsistency, I think the tone is it's really hard to take any kind of positives away from that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that we could look at from especially the homestand, when you can go throughout the entire year if you really want to break everything down, but the most recent part is playing from behind, right? And obviously it's been great that the Kraken have been able to come back and they've been able to not give up in these games and show that they can score. But you look at a lot of the games, especially the Edmonton game, you spot a team like that with, you know, the talent they have on their side, 2 goals off the start, and now you're playing from behind and you have to take extra chances to try to get yourself back into the game. They do claw themselves back to being within 1, but just not able to get the job done. Obviously, you look at the first couple of games, yeah, they're able to come back, they're able to win. But when you look at the consistency aspect of it, it is hard to do in any sport, is to keep coming back and win those games, especially as the season goes on. We're at that halfway point now, and points are even more important. Now, every team is fighting for that last spot or trying to extend their lead, whether they're in a playoff spot or not. So I think it just gets harder and harder as the games go on, and it's extremely hard to play from behind. All teams have great goaltenders. All teams, well, we saw that in the New Jersey Devils game where you might run into that, right? But you got to find yourself in a position where you can play with a lead, play from the other side where they have shown, yes, they can come back in games. But overall, if you keep doing that, eventually it's going to bite you. And again, you look at the homestand, yes, they were able to get points, especially in the first 3 games. But eventually, if you keep playing from behind, you're not going to end up coming back and getting at least that 1 point, you know, to push it back to overtime and whether you win that game or not. So for me, especially looking where the Kraken are, points are the most important thing right now. However you get it, you might not play your best game, but you got to find a way to manufacture points. And from the consistency side, it's just hard to do that when you're constantly playing from behind.
So other than the starts, when we're talking about this consistency, or rather this inconsistency in the team's game, in the execution, what kind of alarms you, or what maybe not alarms, but what are you paying attention to? Because one of the things that has been generally consistent has been like the penalty kill, you know, but is it kind of the transition game for you? Is it the power play? Is it the energy? Like, what do you kind of, you know, what are you focus on there?
Well, I think the power play is the easiest one because you have that man advantage. You have it's the importance, right, on how much that can swing a game to your side or, you know, from the other side, the penalty kill, right? I think from a momentum building standpoint throughout games, that's the easiest one to say, hey, let's look at that. Let's look at, you know, they're not scoring. They haven't scored for a while on the power play and what's going on wrong there. But I'm going to take it to another part. For me, you know, I think of I would say more of like the turnovers and right outside the blue lines. And they've gotten themselves caught quite a few times trying to make one extra play, and it ends up going back the other way. And not every time does that lead to a goal against, but it leads to extended shifts into your own zone. I believe it was the Utah game where Jamie Alexiak had 4 minutes and 15 seconds, I believe it was.
And Shane Wright had a really long shift
over 3 minutes. And, you know, when those shifts, you just slowly start seeing more of those. And obviously when you're tired, you make mistakes. When mistakes happen, usually they end up into the back of the net. It did not happen for that long shift, but I'd want to focus on, you know, making sure you're making the right decisions, whether it's at your blue line or the far blue line, because they have shown that when those mistakes do happen, it ends up going back and it negatively affects not only the next shift, right? Because those guys are tired. How long is it going to take for them to recoup? But also sometimes it does lead to an actual goal or, you know, a direct chance again. So if you can clean that area up, you're going to be better off, you know, for the rest of the games as well.
And the momentum, obviously, too. You know, like we hear Eddie talk about it all the time. You know, even if it's not that goal, even if it's not the chances, it's just like knowing, I would imagine, like in your head, like, God, we keep doing this, like for your own fight as a team, and also the other your opposition. It's like they're like, okay, well, we can just keep doing this then, and that momentum is such an important part of this game too, obviously.
And I think a good thing too, when you see from the consistency side, is when the Kraken are playing their game, when they are just getting pucks in behind the defenseman and getting in on the forecheck, you're seeing a lot of extended shifts on the offensive side. You're seeing positives there. You're forcing them to turn over. Same thing that other teams are doing to the Kraken. You get to see that from them. So it's more along the lines of just playing their game, and when they stick to that. Obviously, I hate saying like play 60 minutes because it's impossible. The other team's going to get their chances. They're going to be in your offensive zone, but being a more consistent factor of, I guess, decision making and making sure that you guys are all on the right page going forward so that everybody can be on the forecheck together. And it's not just one player going in and then it's an easy breakout the other way. So there's just tiny things. Sometimes they're off by just a little bit, right? And then it ends up going back the other way.
So, and I want to talk about two players too that, since we last recorded, have really put together some great performances. One, Jaden Schwartz, obviously a huge part in that comeback win against Vancouver, but really continued that. What have you seen from him and how he has been leading by example?
Well, I think the goals is the easy part, right? And you talked about the leading the comeback. I also go back to in Vancouver where he's 1-on-4 and, knifes his way through, and just the mentality of getting to the front of the net. And, that's what he does. He goes out there, he plays the right way. He's out in the net front always, whether it's on the power play or 5-on-5, even see him throwing in hits every now and then as well, which isn't always a part of his game. And, he's just one of those leaders that you can watch how he plays. And that's how you'd say, hey, I want everybody to go out and play the way he's playing. So, again, the goals are great. He's getting on the score sheet. He's doing all those things. But, I also see him laying down, trying to block shots. There really isn't one part of his game right now that's missing, right? And that's not hard, or it's not easy to do for a long stretch of time. There's going to be times where you don't have your best stuff. But I think the mentality and how he plays makes it so that he can do that consistently. Whether the goals are going in for him or not, it's more about how he plays.
And how about Vince Dunn? I feel like we're reminded of how much we missed him while he was injured watching him play this last week too.
Yeah, I look at his offensive ability, right? Skating the puck up, being essentially another forward, right? When he's going to be, whether he has the puck or he's being a third wave where they can find him. But obviously in the offensive zone and on the power play is where he really makes his living, right? He's a very offensive and skilled defenseman. But that doesn't mean he neglects the back end or where he's going into the defensive side too. He's always using great stick. He gets in on he's not afraid to shy away from any of the physicality. I like that side of his game as well. And, obviously
getting in the mix.
Not afraid to get in the mix, but not going over the line either, right? He definitely plays with a bit of emotion out there, and it's fun to watch, especially, again, when he has the puck on his stick, he can always, make something out of nothing.
So speaking of Vince Dunn, since we last recorded was the holiday break, and on that episode, we talked about our Christmas lists. But before we get to that, John Forsland and I both flew overnight after the last game before the break, which was in Denver. We flew overnight. We flew to JFK and then to Raleigh. My family's in Wilmington. John obviously spent it in Raleigh. And we were waiting for our flight in JFK, or actually in Denver, to go to JFK. And Vince came in. And so into the lounge that we were in. So me and John and Vince had a nice little post-Colorado conversation, the three of us. And so it was nice to kind of get to see Vince a little bit like fully away from the game. And he shared a lot with us. And one of the things that I wanted to share, because we get asked this question a lot, is he lives in Seattle. So I know that a lot of people wonder how many of the players actually live in Seattle versus the East Side. So I do know he lives in Seattle and he owns a house, and he's very excited about having purchased that home, and he's got plans for renovations. And he's so funny. He's like, I love my neighbors. They're all so cool. He's like, they'll do such cool things. Like my one neighbor, used to sell insurance. And it's just like, I love how much he loves to connect with the community, and he's very proud to live in Seattle. So he also said that he has been encouraging everybody to move into Seattle. So I know Maddie had moved into Seattle this year, and some of the other guys. So, and Jamie also, I guess, Jamie Alexiak lives nearby him too. So I just wanted to share that because I know we get questions a lot if everybody is in Kirkland and Bellevue in that area, and the answer is no, they are not. So, and it sounds like more and more are moving in to be closer to the rink. And all the things that Seattle offers. So anyways,
I don't like traffic, so I think that's a good idea.
that's what I said. I was like, I like trying to get to KCI every day, like from where I live. That was when we bought our house, like one of the main priorities, because I just don't, I like to drive if I have like an open road, as you know, you like to drive too. Me and JT are like the opposite of the conversations that you hear of John and Edzo on the broadcast. We're always chirping about carpooling together, and me and JT are like the opposite. So
we would be fine to carpool together. That would be okay.
Yeah, we'd be fine. We're more aggressive, I think, than they are, from what I've gathered. I've never been in a car with Edzo or John, but yeah. Anyway, with that being said, I also wanted to talk about your Christmas list. You are sporting something.
Yeah, I got my necklace, a little pearl necklace. I did end up getting it. I didn't think I was going to, but Lexi came through. She got my list. I did not get the Rolex, if anybody was wondering. Still hoping out for maybe next one, maybe my birthday. We'll figure it out. But I did get everything else on my list that I asked for, so it ended up being very good. Obviously, it ended up being it's more about the kids, and they got all their nice little things and toys. But yeah, I was pretty excited when I first got it, and I posted it online right away that I was wearing it, and I'd send Piper. And you know what, Lexi was right away. She's like, I don't know why you're getting this. You shouldn't. And then at the end, she's like, you know what, I kind of like it. It was a good idea. I'm like, yes. So that was +1 for me.
Did you tell her right away when you opened it up that you were like, oh, I'm so going to get to chirp Piper about this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%. That's why I had to get the picture. Who do you think took the picture while we weren't? She had to do it for me. And no, it was good, though. When I opened it up, I was like, what is this? And then I saw it was like kind of long, and I knew it was going to be a necklace inside. I was like, oh, yes, I'm getting it. So I was pretty excited for that one. And, it was one that was unexpected. So those are probably the best ones, right?
Yeah, which you have proof of, because you said that you didn't think that you were going to get it. So makes it even sweeter.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really like it. And, I've been sporting it just about I won't say every day, because I don't want to overdo it. But yeah, for the most part, it's my number one necklace right now.
Okay, so I also noticed today at practice that one of our great videographers, Marcus, was wearing a pearl necklace. Is it like a trend?
He got it for Christmas too.
They back? And are they back and for men or what? Like, I just didn't know.
I also was wearing my hat, not right now, but my winter hat today. That was also on my list. That's what I got. Oh, so okay. I have 2 gifts on this trip right now.
Awesome. Excellent. What was the highlight for the kids?
Ooh, I mean, the next one they opened.
They just like whatever the next one was?
The next one. Although I will say, I think Lily, one of her favorite things, so she is a very, like with Pokemon, her favorite one is Eevee.
Oh, great one. Great pick. She has taste.
Yeah, for the Pokemon cards, they're collecting them, and they have a whole binder now, and I wish I would have kept mine as a kid, and I could have just passed them on.
I had a little Pokedex, for the cards.
Oh. So we ended up getting her all of the evolutions of Eevee on Pokemon cards. So she was very, very happy about that, and Booker was happy about his Snorlax, though, so... Pokemon
card?
Yeah, Pokemon card, yeah.
Nice.
But I mean, they got a lot. I mean, whether it was Booker also got a remote control truck, so he's been playing with that quite a bit.
Like an RC truck, basically? Nice.
So I mean, again, they play with it, and then they're not going to play with it, and they're going to come back to it. So that's kind of how the break went. They had their favorite toy or their favorite, craft, and then they disliked it, and then they went to another one, and then they end up going back. So, but it was still fun to watch them open it. That's kind of the reason for me for Christmas. I mean, that's my favorite part.
For sure. Yeah, it was fun. So I spent the holidays with my family in Wilmington. I have 2 brothers there, one older, one younger, and then my dad and my stepmom, and then my husband. We haven't had a holiday together in a very long time of any kind. So it was nice to just be together. We did the Hot Ones challenge. We did that on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. It might have been Christmas Day. I think it was Christmas Day that we did the Hot Ones challenge. And then when I was growing up, we used to do this thing called Crazy Drink Night. And it was where it was like a kind of an exercise in learning recipes and teaching us how to mix things and flavors when we were kids, and there was no alcohol involved. But now that we were adults, my parents were like, let's do it as adults. So we did do that. So that was fun. But something that was really cool for me was my little brother, who he's 25 now, but I don't really see him a ton, but he has like a job and, actually he might be, I think he's 26. He's 26. He's 26.
We should
Anyways,
probably get this right.
yeah, he's 26.
Okay.
But anyway, I don't see him a lot, but now that he has like money to spend and, just is more involved in those aspects of like family and holidays and stuff than he was when he was like a college student who's like, oh, don't wake me up. That kind of energy. He was just like so enjoying being there with us, and he got everybody so many gifts. He thrifted me like this Alexander McQueen top that it's very cool. It's black. It has like these chains on it. He's like, I just thought this was so cool. I was at the thrift shop, and I'm like, for me that was so cool because it's like he's at a random thrift store and he just saw something. He's like, oh, I think my sister would like that. So anyway, that was a big highlight for me. And then my older brother got me the Has Been Hotel soundtrack on vinyl. If you don't know what Has Been Hotel is, that's like my favorite show. But it's on Amazon Prime. It's an animated musical. It's incredible. But yeah, so anyway, it sounds like great holidays.
Grant, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
How did the earrings work? Did it go well?
Very well. So I those went over exactly how I'd hoped they would, and she's been wearing them pretty much nonstop. So I'm very happy about that.
Yay!
And she surprised me. She got me another gift, even though I already got my vacuum. I have two cats. I have Disher and Butters. And so what she did is she got me these T-shirts with their faces and almost kind of like, those like old like Scarface T-shirts where it's like a montage of like his Al Pacino's face and it says like Scarface on the top. Well,
Yeah.
she got me a T-shirt of each of my cats, like kind of in that vein. So I have like the ultimate cat dad shirts now. So I'm very happy about that. I've got photos posted on my my different socials. So if you're following me on socials, you'll be able to see them. So
That's incredible.
oh, they're great.
That's incredible. I know we're gonna have to try to get pictures up on our socials of the dog wearing the pants, so that anybody listening who doesn't understand what that meme is or hasn't seen it has that visual to reference. And then also probably get your necklace up there and
Yeah, we need a close up of it.
Get the cat shirts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
Do you guys, before we wrap things up, any final thoughts? Any other Kraken hockeyings or holiday season discussions to be had? I just made that word up, Kraken hockeyings.
It counts.
It's okay. You can make up words.
Yeah.
That's fine. No, I mean, I think, the main thing, if any of the listeners still have any questions that we haven't gotten to, I'm not sure exactly where they're supposed to send them.
Tweet them at us.
Oh, yeah.
Or blue sky them at us.
Yep. I will give you info on how to do that at the end of the episode. We say it at the end of every episode. We got a hotline. We got an email address. Socials works as well.
Perfect.
You can also just go to seattlekraken.com/podcast, and there's a form there too. So.
See, I'm learning about the podcast. We're working their way in, but I think those are fun. Obviously, we get to answer some of the fans' questions, whether it's hockey related, maybe some that are not hockey related as well. When we can do that, it's definitely fun.
Oh yeah,
I agree. Awesome. Well, with that, if there is nothing else to add here, then I would just like to say Happy New Year to all of you out there. We hope that the year is going well for all of you so far, and we hope that it continues to be generally a positive direction for the Kraken. They said that after the holiday break, that was when their new year started. So we hope that they can keep building on it in the back half of this season here. So thank you so much for listening. Thanks for tuning into the Kraken Hockey Network to watch your favorite team in the National Hockey League. And with that, we will see you in 2 weeks right here on Signals from the Deep.
Signals from the Deep is the official podcast of your Seattle Kraken and is a proud member of the Kraken Hockey Network. Hosted by Piper Shaw and JT Brown. Music composed by Benny Dravars. Production by Grant Beery. Have a question for the show? Send an email to signals@seattlekraken.com or call the hotline at 206-279-7810. Your message could be featured on an upcoming episode.